So I think our folks starting to come in. Welcome, people. Come in, take a seat, get a coffee, turn your laptops to put them on mute, turn your telephones off for a little while. I hope you had a wonderful Easter wherever you are coming from in the world. Yeah, they're all coming in.
Do you have walk-in music? Do you have some walk-in music playing, Ian?
We should have some walk-in music, shouldn't we? What would the walk-in music be right now?
I don't know. What's your mood this morning?
For some reason, Led Zeppelin came into my head then. I have no idea why.
Led Zeppelin?
Led Zeppelin, yeah. Is it the, not Stairway to Heaven, that would be weird. The other one, with the big guitar, early solo, I can't think. I will find it, I will Google it. Okay. Folks, tell us where you're coming from, please, in the chat. Tell us where you are. We've got, hi, Dave Gazzarotto. I think you might have another Thunderstruck, Dave. That's the right one. Thank you for that.
How's that?
Yeah, that's it. You're walking in, everyone's walking in. That's it. Melissa Oasis. Oh, very good. Folks, we've got Dunedin as well, Sydney. Thank you for joining us. I know that people's coming in now. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ian Collier. I represent Hanover Fairs and look after all of the Tech Fest portfolio here in Sydney. I hope you had a wonderful Easter wherever you are in the world and enjoyed it and spent time with your family. This is definitely a good time to be spending time with family. What we are doing right now in this series of webinars is we are looking at what Jason has coined the work of today, which I think is very, very good. Gone is the future of work. We are now in it. We are now there now. So what recent events have definitely changed the way we're looking at things. And although we are isolated, we want to bring everyone together. So what we're doing is bringing fantastic speakers from around the world to be with you in your own homes. And today is an occasion we are thrilled to have Jason with us. Over the coming week, we've got some amazing speakers joining us as well. But if you have any ideas, any thoughts, please reach out to me and let me know who you'd like to see or any particular issue you'd like to see addressed as you are challenged in your work right now. So on to today though, we have the chat room, as you can see. If you have any questions, please shout them out. Jason, I'm sure we'll have a good bash at them, even if he doesn't know the answer. I know that he will make it up on the spot, so that's always good. So on to today, Jason is truly a global thought leader on the world of work. We have been honoured to have him many, many times here in Australia and in New Zealand. And as well as being an incredible speaker, a fountain of knowledge, he is generally a very nice guy as well. So, and he better send me the check for that. But anyway, he really is.
On the way, buddy, on the way.
So, folks, over to enjoy, and over to you, Jason.
Great. Hey, thanks, Ian. And Ian, I just wanted to say, great work. Everyone in the community should be really proud to have someone like yourself leading up the effort. So, in the chat, why don't you say "great work, Ian" or something like that, or send him a beer or something like that, because not every community has someone like Ian to drive this kind of stuff. So great to be part of the community, and awesome work, Ian. I hope you can see my screen here in a second. Let me make sure that we're all set. What do you see, Ian? Is that working?
I just see your inbox, Jason.
You don't want to see that, for gosh sakes. Let's see. Let me make sure we're in the right place.
We did it. You did it seamlessly just 2 minutes ago as well.
I did it. You're right. And now, because I did it seamlessly, I'm not going to do it seamlessly now. Now you should be better.
There we go.
Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So once again, thank you guys so much for joining, and thank you so much for having me. And thank you for those that are interacting. Great to have you guys. And I'm going to count on a lot of interaction here today. So please keep the thoughts coming. And I love arguments. So please, if you want to argue, if you want to agree, please keep the chat coming, and it'll be a great way for us to all interact. So really quickly, Leapgen, the organization that I represent, the organization that I had the great opportunity to found and lucky enough to work with the most, what I think are amazing people in the world. We really focus on helping organizations around the world think about transformation, or think about changing the way that they work. And we've been doing that for the last 3 years. I've been doing that for the last 25 years in the space. But recently, because of the situation that we're in, and the opportunity that we have. So I say to everyone, and I just did this interview earlier today with the media where I said, we're at this situation, the intersection of opportunity and crisis, or opportunity and challenge. And because we're at that intersection, people make a turn. They either make a turn towards opportunity or they make a turn towards hibernation. And what I want to help us do today is make the turn towards opportunity, to think about this the right way. So we've always been focused on future of work. And I think that really in the last 2 months, the future of work, has run into this brick wall that, hey, it's been 2020 outside of work. All of a sudden it's 2020 inside of work, and we're in the now of work. So we shouldn't talk about the future of work anymore. We're in the now of work. We have an opportunity to create our now of work together. And that's what this is going to be all about. The work that we do is really 3 buckets. We help organizations think about strategy and vision. We help them deploy capability, whatever that capability is, and we help them ongoing keep the investment of that. So agenda for today, our response to COVID-19. Really, really quickly, I'm going to talk about this. This is an offer that we're making available to the webinar attendees because of our great relationship with Ian and team there. I'll share the offer at the end of the webinar. I'm going to go through these 10 guideposts. And this presentation, which Ian said is nicely going to be available on YouTube, in 4 or 5 hours after the event, I highly recommend you make to your HR leadership teams. I highly recommend you share with your HR leadership teams. And if you don't want to share it, I'll be happy to get on the line in the middle of the night and share it with your teams, because for no cost, because this is the message that they need to hear right now and that they need to act on. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll go into the offer. So introduction, there's myself. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to so hard put out content every single day related to the changes going on. Ian just said, you're everywhere. I'm like, I'm not really everywhere. I'm just trying super hard to keep the community up to date as thinking changes and as work continues to evolve. So I'm going to start with this slide, which is really our 2020 equation for digital success. And 2020, I really mean April 2020, where we are right now. It's made up of 4 key components. And no matter where you are on your journey of digital people, digital HR technology, whatever you want to call it, which we're going to talk about later in the session, these are the 4 buckets that are so important to you. And you've all heard them before, but what I want to make sure you think about is the numbers. The numbers change. The numbers change based on the situation that we're in. So I'm going to start with the first one, mindset and vision. This is 35% of the equation. What is the mindset and the vision that we want to accomplish as an organization right now, in the now of work? How do I have acceptance and gain acceptance on that at a leadership level? Second, who are the people and our audience that we're designing for? Third, what are the journeys that we're designing for? And lastly, what's the technology or the solution that I deploy? Okay, we all know where a lot of us start. We start at the technology because it's the shiny thing, it's the silver bullet. And what we oftentimes end up with is realization that the technology doesn't solve the problem alone. It needs this full picture. So where we're at today, if we don't set the right mindset, a lot of us have roadmaps, a lot of us have action plans, a lot of us have project plans that should all be changing. They should all be changing because they're probably not as relevant as they were 3 months ago. And sorry, I almost swore. This stuff happens. Business goes through cycles. Business goes through change. This is a change that is going to hurt us in the short term, but it's going to help us so much in the long term because it's going to allow us to jump from where we were, which is about 15 years behind the outside world, to being at the outside world. Because now we are experiencing all at the same time, outside world and work. And there are organizations that are doing really, really well. And there are organizations that are getting crushed. I call it the digital crush to the digital rush. we're going to move into the digital rush very, very shortly. But a lot of people are having a lot of luck working from home. Like, imagine that. A lot of people are having a lot of luck working from home. And organizations that we talk to all over the world are saying, you know what, we're actually more productive. I'd love in your chat for you to say, yes or no. Yes, you're doing fine working from home. No, you're not doing fine working from home. I'd love to see what you say. And I realize this is us as professionals. This isn't blue collar and things like that. We've got yes, no, yes. A yes, no, yes so far. Yes, but this was the norm before. Doing fine. Ian and I were talking beforehand. One person said, hey, I'm not ready to go back. The other one said, hey, I'm ready to go back. Doing fine, challenging with kids around. The interesting thing that so many companies are surprised about, here's someone that said, love working from home and really getting on board with this now. And the team's getting on board. The interesting thing about this, you guys, is it shouldn't be a surprise that this is working well, because we work away from work in everything we do on our devices, in our normal consumer lives. We order food. We order products without going to stores. We order cars without calling anyone. Okay, now all of a sudden we're like, hey, we're working away from our office and hey, we're doing fine. A lot of our processes aren't in the right place. And as I don't know if it's Kim or it's whoever that is, Kimber said, I missed the social interaction. We're going to talk about that. But, it's a balance. And what I want to talk about for the rest of the time here is that our job, and this was a picture that I took in Mexico last year at this time, life's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning to dance in the rain. Not about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning to dance in the rain. And that's what we're doing right now. We're learning to dance in the rain. We're creating our now of work, your now of work together. So what I would love for you to do is in here really, really quickly, say, what color are you feeling today? Green, yellow, red. Stoplight. Green, good. Yellow, in the middle. Red, not so good. Just type it in the chat. We've got green, green. We've got a yellow. We've got a yellow. We've got a green. We've got a green. We've got a green. We've got green, 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 yellow, 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 green. Awesome. So, guys, this is a question. And if you think about this, don't laugh at me. This is like an engagement survey. This is a New World engagement survey that I'm doing once a year. No, not once a year. I'm doing it in real time. Why? Because I'm listening to you. Is this something that you do to your employees? Can you understand at any moment how they're feeling? Yes or no? Can you take action on that? Yes or no? A new capability for us to think about in this new world of work. And we're going to talk about this when we talk about the managers and leaders in a second. But just the fact that no one is read is important. But there will be times, and I'd really love you guys to take this away from this webinar, as a community, some of us are going to feel read sometimes. Okay? And I'd ask you as humans to look after each other and be able to check up on each other and ask yourself, how are you doing on a daily basis? Because we're going through the biggest change that we are ever going to go through as an industry. Period. End of story. And because of that, there are going to be times where we have questions, which is totally cool. And there's going to be times that we don't have answers. Totally cool. But we need each other to create this new now of work together. The 10 guideposts that we're going to talk about that I beg you to share with your teams. First, how do I have an aligned mindset? The concept of work changing. What's the new operating model of people? What's this concept of an employee experience layer and why is it a must now? What are the moments that truly matter right now? How do managers and leaders work in this new world? What is people data redefined today? Why is a digital workplace part of HR's responsibility? Why do roadmaps need to be revisited now? And finally, how do we get our mindset aligned on the now of work? So all of you all are saying, how is this dude going to do all this in the next 40 minutes? I'm going to do it quick, okay? But I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm offering, and we can put my email in the chat, like anytime you want to have any further discussions on this stuff in the next week, please email me or please LinkedIn with me. You see my name again at the bottom. Like this stuff is so important for us to all understand right now and act upon right now. I was sharing with Ian, I was on a webinar earlier today, and one of the first questions was, how do we do this while we're doing our day job? And I was very, very catty with my answer. I said, I don't really care how you do it while you're doing your day job, but you have to do it. Okay, it's not you have to do it, because if you don't do it, your organization is going to fall behind forever. Okay, so we have to think about how do we keep the lights on and at the same time start to revisit some of these things. So what we're doing is we're moving from now to next. We're moving from now to next. And I think what's so important about that to understand is that everyone is at a certain now place and everyone is moving to a next. You are going to and need to define your next. So all of a sudden, like I said, it was 2020 outside of work. Bang, now what? What year would you say it feels like at work? Now your at work is at home. And I think someone asked me, how's working from home going? I'm like, stop the from home part. I don't say, how's work going at work? And then how's work at home? It's just work. It's how's work going? So if you think about it, it's 2020 outside of work. You all use your devices for everything. What year is it at work when it comes to how digitally ready are you for this moment? Type in a year. 2010, 2005, 2020, you feel like, hey, we're just as ready outside of work as we are inside of work. Inside of work, we're just as ready as we are outside of work. It's the same year. What year does it feel like? Hey, when you search your portal or intranet, can you find an answer right away? If I'm trying to get something done, it gets done really, really as well as before. So once again, 2020 outside of work, what year is it inside of work? Put in a year in the chat. What year does it feel like at work as you're working online? Someone said 2010. Someone said 2007. Someone said 2005. Someone said 1990, which is 30 years ago. So you guys, when you think about this question, realize that your employees are used to working outside of work at 2020. Inside of work, how do we bring that experience up to where we're at? It starts with this number one, aligned mindset, and how do we focus? That 35%, here are the questions you need to ask, and I hope you can ask them today. One, what matters now to the workforce? What matters right now to the workforce? Are the things that you're doing right now, do they matter? Second, what is high impact? High impact to your organization right now, based on what's going on in the world and what's going on in your organization to adjust to that, because all your organizations are adjusting. What is high impact? How do you make sure that you have a clear vision and strategy for how to move forward? And the thing that's really important about this is the word coordinated. A coordinated vision and strategy. Not HR technology has a strategy, HR leadership has a strategy, IT has a strategy, learning has a strategy, recruiting has a strategy. Guess what? We need a coordinated strategy. Just like we as a business need a coordinated response to what we're doing. And then lastly, we need full commitment and acceptance that we're driving towards this future now of work. If we do this, you guys, this sets the mindset that we need to be able to execute. If we don't do this, we're running into our budgets are frozen. We're pausing on that initiative. That doesn't matter to us right now. We as an organization just can't do that right now. And I'm going to say that if your organization's saying that, we haven't done a good enough job saying that this matters now. Because guess what? If people truly matter to the business, this needs to matter in the now of work. So does that make sense? I'd love you just to say yes or no in the chat. Does this make sense? You need to be able to articulate this message very, very clearly. What matters now to your workforce? And what can you stop doing Melissa, what can you stop doing? Julia, what can you stop doing that you're doing now to help position the organization? As Grant said, the trick is how to achieve this. The trick to achieve this is grit. I'm gonna be very, very blunt. It's grit. It's gonna really, really be hard. But guarantee it, we've seen so many organizations go through this that if you put the hard work in, it gets you on the right path. If you don't put the hard work in and get the organizational alignment, you're going to end up banging your head against the wall saying, oh, why? Why did that get not funded? Or why can't we move forward with that? Okay, so putting your effort into the why and into the what matters now helps you so much. And I'm just going to say this, the alignment on mindset between org objectives, HR people objectives, and digital objectives must take center stage. So if you're not at your HR leadership team right now with saying what's the alignment between what the company's doing or the organization's doing, what the HR function's doing, and what I'm doing from a digital and technology standpoint, you need to be. You need to be fast. Because if you're not, you're going to get people are going to go off and do stuff on their own, and you, from a technology and digital standpoint, are going to end up with supporting more stuff later on and having more silos than we already do today. So pause for a second. Get this alignment. If you get this alignment, you're going to be able to move forward. And Colin, I love your comment. Work and non-work need to stay split. Totally agree with that. Nobody wants to carry work around all day. But guess what? The way we do that is to define our boxes. The way we do that is to define our boxes. Grant said actually needs courage, and a lot of it. Leaders have their head in the sand, hoping it all goes away. That is the fastest way to not, I have to be, sorry, Grant, I'm a little passionate about this. That's the fastest way to not be successful. Head in the sand, hoping it goes away, or scurrying. I like to call it scurrying. People are just scurrying. And people have to realize this is a golden opportunity. There's never going to be a time like this for us to have this opportunity. Julia said we've deferred a number of things that we had in our plan for 2020, so we make sure we're focusing on the work that will benefit HR to be aligned with the business strategy. Love that. I love the words, Julia, and I'm going to say that the other part of it is not just HR aligned to the business strategy, but to make sure that our people function is focused on meeting the needs of the workforce. That we're not just benefiting HR, we're benefiting the workforce. Okay, so I love that. I love your comment, Julia, excuse me, and just take it one step further, that we're aligned with how the workers need to be supported today, because our workforce needs support. So Grant said we need to have courage to face off this. So love that, love that comment. So I always ask this question because I think it's so important. Have you begun, Julia has, have you begun to rethink your digital people strategy to address this new now of work? Yes or no? In the last 6 weeks, yes or no, have you begun to rethink this? Awesome. So the first, all the responses so far are yes. And that's great. The more that we can do that, and the more that it's in henna tattoo, not ink tattoo, henna, meaning I can wash it off and change it as I need to go, the better we're going to be. And it sounds really easy. And I realize it's really, really hard, but it's going to change 3 or 4 times this year. What Julia said, the business is going to change. I always use this analogy. In good times, leaders can take their hands off the wheel and let the boat drive itself. In hard times, leaders have to keep their hands really tight on the wheel and navigate through turbulent times. A little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit left, a little bit right. That's what's going to happen for this year and probably into next year. So it's really important that you have complete control. You don't have shadow work going on. You don't have people doing their own stuff. That's why the leadership team has to get aligned. And that grants your courage point is very important. Work has changed forever. It's not, no matter what happens, work has changed forever. Okay? Now, someone's going to say, dude, don't over-exaggerate. I'm not over-exaggerating. Work has changed forever. Kids are learning to be at home with their parents. Work managers and leaders are actually paying more attention to their employees. People are having more happy hours, even though they're virtual. People are actually listening to their employees more than they were before. Employees actually are thinking more of work-life balance than they were before. So work has changed. And I don't know if you've seen some of the surveys lately, but 92% say they don't want things to go back to the way they were before at work. 92%. So work is going to change, whether we like it or not. We in HR are not going to stop the change. We can create the change, but we're not going to stop the change. So because of that, we have the opportunity to create the next normal. Grant just made a comment that caught my but I'll get to it in a second. Work has changed forever. As the next normal comes into focus, we must stop processes that don't add value and truly focus on navigating as work is redefined weekly. That's what I said. Now, should I do a once a year engagement survey anymore? No, stop. No one wanted it. It's not necessary. Stop. Should I do performance reviews once a year? No, managers and leaders hated them. Great opportunity. Stop. Should I think about how to make onboarding better? Yes. I'm hiring and firing and moving contingent labor faster than I ever have before. Yes, I should focus on that. Some of you have seen in the US, we've laid off 17 million people in the last 3 weeks. Do you know how long it takes to hire 17 million people? Much longer than 3 weeks. Do you know the maximum number of people that HR has laid off ever in a year in the US is about 17 million, and we did it in 3 weeks. Do you think anyone in HR was equipped to lay off that many people in 3 weeks? No. And the numbers are, once again, as high as they are, proportionally in Australia. So if you think about that, it's very, 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 very important that we say, what are the things that are going to add value on the other side of this? So Grant, if people go back and spring back to pre-19, dude, I don't even know what to say. They're going to be behind forever, because we're watching organizations right now use this as the opportunity to reinvent themselves. Because guess what? Those that were ahead and those that were behind, everyone had to stop all at the same time. That never happens. Do you guys understand that? That's never happened, and it probably will never happen again. So now everyone has a chance to be on an even playing field as they create their future. So the question is for those organizations that spring back, they're going to spring backwards. For those organizations that use this as their opportunity to create their now, they're going to spring forward. It's your decision. But if you get this message in front of the HR leadership teams, most of them are going to say, yeah, you're right. It is our opportunity. Why would we keep doing all that stuff that we did before when it wasn't adding value and we see that we can do without it? So what that requires, it requires us to think about our operating model for HR and people orgs, and realize that digital delivery is required. Now, does that mean get rid of people? No. Does that mean AI and bots are coming to take people's jobs? No. But it means I have to have a digital delivery mechanism. And it should be my first mechanism. It should be the thing I think first. I should think digital first, and then say what isn't going to work digital, where I need human involved. By the way, digital doesn't mean digital or not digital. Digital means I'm thinking in a way that's intentional, that's sequenced, and that's focusing on design for people. That's digital. In some cases, I'm going to use technology to deliver it. In other cases, I'm not going to use technology to deliver it. But what I want to make sure I do is think about things intentionally and focus on that mindset. So together, as a function, we must quickly bring together all of our efforts. They can't be siloed. Does that make sense? They can't be siloed. I can't have learning doing something and benefits doing something and training doing something, recruiting doing something, and payroll doing something, and then the portal group doing something, and then the intranet group doing something, and then Workplace by Facebook doing something, and then Slack doing something, and then Teams doing something. You guys get the picture. That's like saying you're not going to work in one place. You're going to work in 29 places during the day when you go to work. That's not what happens. You have one desk. In the digital work, I need to think about bringing my delivery together in a coordinated effort so that as I deliver, I as an employee feel like I'm at my desk and all of the tools I need are there. But they're not branded different. They're not, they can look different, but it's all around a digital delivery strategy and making sure that it's coordinated, if nothing else, across HR. I'm going to pause. Does that make sense? Just say yes or no, because it's so important. Like, if you can't do it across the entire enterprise, at least do it across HR. Get the HR organization to be coordinated. So far, only Julia said yes, which means everyone else didn't make sense to. Someone said siloed, it's called human nature. There's a reason that siloed has been a lexicon for a long time. Digital will help break it. And Grant, the other thing that will break it is that if we design for my 2 eyes, does that make sense? My 2 eyes and my 2 ears. Realize that we all have our own initiatives, our own silos. But when you think about that coming at the employee can only take on so much. So I love the concept of thinking about silos. Silos are human nature, but guess what? Siloed strategies around certain capabilities are fine, but how do I deliver? That needs to be coordinated. That needs to be coordinated. And Grant, we might jump over leaders, but what I'd love to say is that we're going to bring leaders with us. Leaders will see the value of this when all of a sudden their adoption rates go up. Okay? Grant said good luck. Grant, you show people, I would love to have, I'm not going to have a debate with you on this, but I'd love to have a longer conversation about it, because the more you show people the value of a coordinated strategy, the more they want to go with it. The better their data is, the better their ability to get things done are, the more productive their teams are, and the greater their outcomes are. So I'll follow up with you on that. It's great conversation. It's so important, but you can't wait for your CHRO to do it. You have to do it. And I truly believe that the days of having HR ops, and HR technology functions are done. There's one function that's called digital HR or digital people. Okay? We might have different departments, but everyone is on the same page. I was on the phone earlier today with an organization who's putting in a new piece of HR technology, and they didn't include HR ops in the implementation or deployment. Like, what are you talking about? Like, do you realize that HR ops is the first point of impact, POI, when you deploy this? Like, when there's a question, who are they going to call? HR ops. Like, oh yeah, you're right. We should have included them. Like, we can't do things in little silos. I know it's the lexicon and all that stuff that you said, Grant, but the more we do things like that, the harder it is. And when we're trying to drive this, we used to be in HR a B2B function. Then we went to a B2C function, or business to consumer. And right now we're in a B2Me function. B2Me. I mean, if I'm Ian's leader or Ian's my leader, I need to be directly able to impact Ian on a personal basis. We're shifting from persona to person. Okay, and to do that, I need to have a coordinated strategy. Otherwise, it doesn't scale. It doesn't scale the way we need it to. Employee experience layer, portal, intranet, all that stuff. We have to clean this stuff up, you guys. Maybe the HR function needs to be seriously disrupted. Great comment, Grant. Yes, for sure. Employee experience layer, portal, intranet, whatever layer you have. Most organizations suck at this. It's still a link farm. It's a link to systems versus a path to going through journeys. Okay, and people are searching for answers today, and they're not finding answers. I have knowledge documents that are scattered all over the place. I have documents everywhere. We have to realize that we have to get rid of these link farms, and we have to focus on creating an experience layer that brings all this stuff together for me. One iOS. Within the iOS, I can have 18 things, you guys. It doesn't matter how many things I have within the iOS, but I need that one iOS. I need that call Grant or ask Grant. And when I ask Grant, what's 4 plus 7 minus 6 plus 2? 4
plus 7 minus 6 plus 2 is 7.
He gives me an answer, 7. I didn't say Grant, math, addition, 3rd grade, 4 numbers, and then all of a sudden it teaches me how to do the addition. I just asked it a question and got an answer, right? That's what people want, and that's what people expect. If we think about putting up a link farm and navigating through systems, that's not the now of work. That's the past of work. And guess what? That adds more value today when someone's in a crisis than ever before. Julia just asked if we have any documentation to share on the internet of the future. I'll take that offline. I'm not going to have time to go into it right now. But that construct, Julia, I'll have a separate conversation. But the intranet of the future, or the I struggle. I can't even say the word intranet without like the experience layer is what I call it. It's really the skin that holds together everything else we have. That is such a huge, huge component, and we can follow up on that offline. But thank you for asking the question. What are the moments that matter right now? So before COVID, we were like, hey, you know what the moments that matter are? When someone has a baby, when someone gets married. Totally cool. Like, those are moments that matter, but they don't differentiate enough. What are the moments that matter right now in our business? Our job right now for the next 3 to 6 months is to enable experiences, communications, and capabilities that can drive the highest impact in the org, tied to the changing business strategy. So Julia, your intranet, that's your main communication vehicle. That's your main culture vehicle. That's your main employee value proposition vehicle. And that's your main vehicle to make sure that you have a way to listen and talk to your employees. Someone's like, the intranet? I'm like, yeah, if not the old school intranet, that employee experience layer of today. Okay, now whether you're using Workplace, whether you're using Google, SharePoint, ServiceNow, name your tool. It doesn't matter what the tool is. The question is how you use the tool. And we don't use it as a dumping ground and give everyone abilities to turn into what they want to. Here's the guiding principles to drive the success of this experience tool. Managers and leaders. Now, managers and leaders need to be your biggest advocates. The people, the employees work for them. And what employees are going to do for this next period of time as things change, they're going to listen to managers and leaders more than they listen to anyone else. Managers and leaders are on the front lines with people every single day, which means that this is our opportunity to finally enable these managers and leaders like we never have before. A lot of these managers and leaders think HR pushes stuff on them and doesn't actually think that they're tools for them. They're tools for HR. So we need to make sure that managers and leaders are our conduits. Now, some of you are going to say, you know, HR business partners are our conduits. HR business partners don't scale. Managers and leaders scale. The ratio of HR business partners are 300 or 500 or 700 to 1. Leaders, 6 to 1, 8 to 1. If I want to get things deployed and adopted, I get my managers and leaders bought in. When we think about that, we also need to think about that I need to be driving communication, coaching, feeling, and well-being. Okay? And that's much, much more than just an interface. So people are like, hey, guess what? We're rolling out a new employee experience interface. And guess what? It's in Workday. Or guess what? It's in Oracle. the interface is not the thing. Okay? What is the thing are the tools that you put and deploy in that interface. Okay? So very, very important to keep going and thinking through. I need to be listening to Ian every day. Like, what am I going to do? Is it Slack? Is it Teams? Is it Zoom? Is it Boom? Is it Goom? What is it? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what the technology is. I need to be listening and understanding and feeling how Ian's feeling so that I can guide him through these hard times, through these turbulent things. Okay? And this is our opportunity to do that. And once again, the managers and leaders are where that starts. Number 7, people data, a whole new world. You guys might call this HR analytics in your world. I just kind of blew that term up because it's never been successful. Someone's going to argue with me, I know it. But for the most part, it's never been successful. It's been HR looking at themselves in the mirror and measuring their impact on themselves. Cost per hire, time to fill. Blah. Oh, Grant agreed with me, Ian. Grant agreed with me there finally. But
wonders will never cease.
I'm kidding. But, you know, we live in a world today where the things that we need to be measuring and thinking are not what our cost per hire is or time to fill. Like, that's fine. Like, if I want to look at myself in the mirror and, you know, say, hey, you've lost some weight or you've gained some weight. It's me looking at myself in the mirror. When I think about people data, I'm in this world now where it requires me to know about my people, who they're connected with, how they're feeling, and what they're thinking in real time. Okay, that's people data. Now, what's changed about this versus HR analytics? Some of you might say nothing. That's what we do. But in a lot of organizations, we're just simply counting heads and maybe just trying to understand a little about those heads. We need to shift from counting heads to making heads count. How do I shift from counting people to making people count? Understanding people, understanding how they're feeling, how they're thinking, who they're connected with, so I understand their relationships. This gets into things like organizational network analysis to say who's talking to who. Where are my people in my organization that know the most about how to work with airlines? Where are my people in the organization that know the most about how to work in a financial situation? Where are my people in the organization? Oh my gosh, God forbid, I know where my people used to work in the past. The time is, I mean, look at data, you guys. Data is everywhere. You cannot turn on whatever you turn on to check to see if the world's still going without being shown data. Yet for whatever reason, we in HR still are not great at it. We're still focusing on just trying to, you know, can we just get everything in one place? If you look at the number, and I'm just trying to use real life examples, if you look at the COVID numbers, all that data is not in one database. Does that make sense? It's not all coming from one database that's neatly organized so I could push a button and then display a dashboard. It's coming from lots of places. So if you think about the dashboards that we're seeing now, that's outside of work. Why can't I do that inside of work? I can. But it requires me to focus on what I want to see, what I want to understand about my people, and what leaders and executives want to know about my people. We don't know what leaders want to know because they don't think we can do it. In the now of work, our job is to ask, is to listen, and to provide quickly that data so that we continue to up that value stream. Okay, because if we don't, once again, go back to where we were before, we can't get funding for this data warehouse. That is such a stupid thing to ever hear, and I hear it way too much. Like, about the biggest expense you have, your people, you can't get funding. The reason you can't get funding is because you're calling it a data warehouse versus you're calling it a people intelligence or talent intelligence tool or talent intelligence initiative. Okay, it's not about the tool. It's about what you're going to do with it to change how business operates. Along with that, we have to, you notice that point about real time? We have to get rid of all this once a year stuff. I was on a webinar in India last week who said, do you think this week it's our week to launch our employee engagement survey once a year. Do you think this is a good week? I'm like, are you serious? Like your whole country's in lockdown. Do you think this is a good week? Like, it's not ever a good week. It should be every week is a good week. Like, why is it once a year? Because we try to jam everything into a 78 question thing that only people would fill out once a year. If I asked Ian once a day how he was feeling, it wouldn't bother him. And it was in the flow of how he does his work. Like, red, yellow, green, Ian. Green. Awesome. Keep it up. Red, yellow, green, Ian. Red. Hey, how about a quick conversation? What can I do for you, mate, to help you feel better? And just that little stuff, by having that, makes me be a better leader. Leaders would love that versus thinking about trying to digest a once a year old school engagement tool. Grant, your comment, like Grant, I don't know who this Grant guy is, but he's my new favorite guy. I need to have him on every one of my events. Arguing for ONA, organizational network analysis, for 2 years. My hypothesis is leaders who are scared of being exposed to too much insight. Easier not to know. Like, maybe. Or maybe, Grant, just the other side of the coin, they don't understand what it could do. They don't understand what it could do. Grant. They don't understand what it could do to actually have. And by the way, we shouldn't call it ONA. We should say knowing about our people and knowing about their relationship with customers. Somehow it works fine if I'm a guest in a hotel and I know what my preferences are for beds. Somehow it works fine in loyalty points programs. Somehow I don't want to know who my people are talking to. Your other point, Grant, you made, sorry, this is like the Grant webinar, Ian, sorry. We do exactly this, and our leaders are confronted by listen to their people. Like, it's so, so important. I'll say this, it's so important. And mostly old talent management stuff, people hate to hear this, and I'm sorry if you're a vendor. We've wasted trillions of dollars and millions of hours doing talent management processes at HR that simply don't matter. Like, use this time to throw them away. The once a year performance reviews, like career planning. Like, are people still doing career planning? Like, succession's cool, but I laugh at people that say, you ask a 15-year-old to go to someone's career site, they look at the website, they're like, I don't see anything here that says jobs. I'm like, what are you talking about? It says career. It's like, I don't want a career, I just want a job. That's old school thinking, career site versus jobs. So how do we reinvent that stuff? It's a really important point to do it right now. Number 8, digital workplace. Slack, Teams, intranets, portals, Zooms, Maya, Blackboards, all that stuff is a big part of HR's responsibility. HR is responsible for putting in place, lunchrooms and putting in place fitness centers and putting in place childcare facilities. But somehow they're not responsible for things like this. IT is. That has to change. These are business tools. And they're employee experience tools. So it doesn't necessarily mean HR owns this, but the HR needs to be involved in it along with IT when we think about those things. So really, 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 really important to think about digital workplace and realize that HR needs to play a part. They don't have to own it, but they need to play a part in it. Okay? Digital workplace. And by the way, I think that this all fits under a new category called digital HR or digital people. Anyone who still uses the term HR technology after this should be put in a closet for a while. HR technology is technology for HR people. We're so far beyond that, you guys. We're a digital function. We're a digital business. We've been digitized. We're not about just the 10%. We're not about just the technology. We're about digital think. Anne just said, we are finally shifting from tech-led change to people-led change enabled by tech. Like, everyone take a drink. But I love that comment, Anne. You're so right. And that what you just said in that sentence, like, mount that up on your wall, Ian, because people-led change enabled by technology, that's what HR leadership teams need to hear. Okay, IT shouldn't be making the decisions. They need to be part of the decision, and they need to be partners with you on driving this change, but they're not the ones making the decision about that. So I love you, Anne. It's such a great, great comment. We're finally shifting from tech-led change to people-led change enabled by technology. What you just said there is a great example of digital. That's another definition of digital thinking, what you just said, versus technology thinking. Wow, sorry, Ian, I didn't mean to get so passionate there, but brilliant.
Go for it.
Brilliant. I love that. I love the interaction, and it's a great point. Number 9, roadmaps need revising and focusing right now. Okay, so your roadmaps that you've created, your strategies that you've put in place, even the funding that you've got, needs to be rethought. Because guess what? I guarantee you there are things on there that you could shift around to add more impact right now. And sequence a little bit differently to add more impact, not just right now, but going forward. Okay? And it's not like people think this is bad. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, we have to revise our roadmaps. Guys, there's a little accident, so guess what? I have to take a different route. Like, we revise things all the time. You know what I mean? Hey, the grocery store's out of chicken tonight, so I'm going to have to make turkey. Like, hey, there's a little bit of a bump, and this might be a big bump, but guess what? I need to revise a bit. And here I'm revising, and at the same time, I have this huge opportunity to be unique. Julia made this comment, we run a business capability roadmap, which may or may not have a technology component. And that's awesome. That's focusing on how do I think about what do I need from a business, and then is there a technology side, yes or no? But it's aligned to the business is what's key in that particular statement. So what makes sense here, and one of the things that I'm going to offer at the end of this is us to be able to help you guys, from a no-cost basis, look at your roadmap and help resequence it. It's not a huge exercise, but it's a massively important exercise. And it's an exercise that I hate to say it, but if it's not done at the end of 2020, we're going to all look back and be like, dude, that was the worst decision ever. So what we plan on doing doesn't make sense any longer. It likely doesn't make sense. The priorities have changed, budgets have changed. I have travel dollars that I used to have a set aside that I'm not going to use all of a sudden. I have modules that I thought I was going to deploy that all of a sudden we realize, hey, we shouldn't think about modules anymore. Sequencing needs to be done, and I need to think about this new focus of now. I love Sarah's question. What are keys we should have on our roadmaps right now? The keys you should have on your roadmaps tie to who you're going to be in the new now, Sarah. Communication has to be on your roadmap. Design, employee, and manager first have to be on your roadmap. Thinking. Portals, intranets, experience layer have to be on your roadmap. Data has to be on your roadmap. What doesn't need to be on your roadmap are things like upgrading from one payroll module to another unless you're going to lose support and unless you've actually validated that you're going to lose support, since most vendors are saying they're going to extend support. What shouldn't be on your roadmap are things like, hey, we have to figure out how to use more of vendor X because otherwise we're not getting the value out of it. When we think about modules, people don't work in modules. Our value shouldn't be how do we deploy more modules. Our values should be, how do we think about the things that we want to do? And Grant, so Sarah, I'd love to go into more detail on that with you. There's a bunch of things, and not, the other thing I didn't even mention, which is mindset and change. Mindset and change should be the top of your roadmap. And someone's going to say, that's not on a roadmap. If mindset and shifting mindset to now of work is not on your roadmap, that should be the most important thing on your roadmap, and gaining your HR leadership team's buy-in to where you're going before you actually do anything else. Grant's point suggests parallel processing rather than sequencing. Parallel processing is fine until the trains collide, Grant. If I'm in the process of trying to roll out a new knowledge base at the same time as I'm trying to do X, and all of a sudden I realize that the two of them are going to collide because I didn't do one before the other, it creates this huge problem. So I understand what you're saying, but in some cases I need data and one layer before I do the other layer. That's where sequencing comes into play. It's not just what I get the money for. I need to actually do it in a certain order. And it leads us to this discussion of really thinking about what is my urgency and what's my business value. So you see this slide? This is an example of a prioritization matrix. How do I prioritize the now of work? Urgency and impact. And if something's in the upper right, high urgency and high impact, guess what? Roadmap. Who determines the business impact and who determines the urgency? The people leadership team aligned to the business, not HR technology, not IT. Okay, so use this example, use this as a component. And finally, last but not least, mindset. Now of work. Now is our time. This is the biggest opportunity that we have ever in our lives to reshape, reframe, and reset our future. Every single day, we should challenge ourselves to break the status quo. Okay, every single day, we should challenge ourselves to break that status quo. So 2 things. I told you guys, for you guys in the webinar, 2 quick offers. Our first offer is this offer to help organizations prioritize. I want to throw it out there for you guys. Email me. I'll put my email in the chat. If you want to walk through this and what it looks like, it's a tool that we put in place specifically for COVID-19 on a global basis to help organizations reprioritize. Okay? And designed to do it in a way where it doesn't cost money and it doesn't take forever. The second thing is that every single organization is in the middle of some deployment, and people need to change their deployment based on the now of work. So the second offering is, how do you tweak your deployment a little to make sure that it fits in the now of work? So we, as a firm, agnostic, we could care less what, once again, this isn't all the vendors in the world, but could care less what vendor you use. It has nothing to do with the vendor. It has to do with the approach that you take going forward. So those are the guideposts, and the person who's running this said the thing's going to say goodbye to me automatically at the top of the hour. So I want to be cognizant of time. So I'd love for you just to say yes or no whether this is helpful in the chat. Email me and let me know if it was helpful. I'm happy to have the conversation. If you want this deck, I'm happy to send the deck to you so that you can give this presentation. And then the other thing I would just ask you guys is, are there any quick questions? And probably Ian, we're gonna run out of time for questions. I've been taking them as we've gone along. There's been great interaction. But if you have any specific questions, or specifically for Sarah, who asked about roadmap, or Sonia, who just said love the deck, take my email address up there. Just shoot me a quick email, and I'll send it off to you, tonight, so that you have it. The other thing I just wanted to share with you guys is that, part of what we do is we have this Slack channel. Ian's part of this, our global Slack channel. We have a Slack channel called Now of Work. And Now of Work, this Slack channel has over 750 people around the world who all they do is talk about this stuff on a daily basis. So if this is your stuff and you're trying to track what organizations around the world are doing, take your camera, take a picture of this, join the Slack channel. Slack actually sponsored this as part of our collaboration with them. They're paying for the channel and all the infrastructure. So please join that and join in on the conversation. Ian, thank you so much for having me. I'll turn it over to you before we get cut off.
Fantastic, folks. If we do get off, I just wanted to thank you, Jason. Thanks for being with us. You bring fantastic energy. I've really enjoyed it. That hour has passed in a heartbeat. If anyone has any questions, reach out to me or Jason. We thank you to join us for an hour. It's been wonderful having you with us. We're having a great session later on in the week with Greg Bain. If you'd like to join that, please let us know or register your interest and we will send out your link. Jason, thanks very much again, my friend. We will connect with you and we will have more information coming over the foreseeable and the forthcoming weeks.
And Ian, I can't wait to be back in Australia and New Zealand next time you let me in, which I have a feeling will be a while.
We will definitely let you in as soon as we can let you in, Jason, for sure. Brilliant.
Great. Thanks, you guys.
Enjoy your walk. I know you're going out for a walk now, so enjoy your walk. It's well earned.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, folks. Cheers. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.